Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the best part of your week. It is another episode of the Super2Bit Podcast. You are welcome, ladies and gents. Tonight's topic, something very on topic, not that we're ever off topic, but it's next-gen consoles. The Xbox Series X launches today. PlayStation 5 launches in South Africa next week, Friday. So it is the season to jump into next-gen. And the biggest question of all, ladies and gents, obviously with next-gen 4K, even 8K on the cards, what monitor/TV should you be investing in to make sure you're getting the most out of your sweet, brand new, sparkly, beefy console? I've been irritating Neil with these questions for about 2 years now. Even before next gen was on the cards, I was irritating Neil with these questions. So we're going to fill an hour with the juiciest information you need. And obviously the man for the job is none other than the marksman.
That was a bit of an awkward introduction there.
That was amazing. What was wrong with that?
Your voice went all wobbly and weird. But hello, everybody. Welcome.
I was running out of air. I had to breathe. Good to have you here, buddy.
Thanks, man. Good to be here at the cusp of a new generation.
I know, dude. Can you believe it's been how many years since PS4? 7 years?
7 years. 7 years. 2013, I think it came out. About this time in 2013 or 2012. I can't actually remember. It's been 7 years though. But
do you remember buying? Yeah.
Like it doesn't even feel that old. Like, you know, I've got a PlayStation 4, I've got a PlayStation 4 Pro. I still enjoy the games on them. I'm not like, wow, this game's like really suffering graphically or whatever. I'm still enjoying them like as they were when they were new.
I feel you. I remember queuing up at Anime. I think it was Anime Works for the PS4 midnight launch. And it was me with the SA Gamer crew, and we like all went for like burgers and beers before, and we just queued up, and we're like, yay! And I remember getting my PlayStation 4, getting onto my knees and like holding it up like Simba, you know, like his dad hold him up, or like Rafiki, whatever, you know, holds him up for Pride Rock, and they were all like, oh, it was such an epic moment. But let's welcome everyone to the stream. It's so crazy because that moment's arrived again, almost a decade later. I just don't have the same feelings. So I think we're just getting old, or we're just taking things.
Maybe we are, but also like, you know, there's no midnight launches. There's no queuing outside or Anime Works or anything. I don't even think like any retail stores are really going to have it on sale day one. I think it's all pre-orders. I think BT Games might do something, but you can't exactly have a midnight launch these days in the crazy world we live in. So
you cannot.
It's crazy, man.
Welcome, Captain Jake's live, as well as my boy PJ Snayman, who says, just the stream I need. Can't decide to upgrade my PC or buy a next-gen console, PS5 in brackets. For my streaming, I can stream and play on my PC, but I want to make it smoother for the hardware. I mean, 16 grand for a capture card. Oh, it carries on. Console, use it on upgrading the PC. Can you help, Dave? PJ, you're in the right space, buddy. Trust me. It's a lot of money. Especially when it comes down to TV screens, there's a lot of dues. QLED, OLED. Man, I should have done more. I have done more research. It's debating me now. What's the new tech from Samsung? NanoCell.
Yeah, NanoCell. Laser projectors.
4K laser projectors.
60 hertz, 120 hertz, 244 hertz.
Should you care? Does it matter if you're going to be streaming? So there's so many questions we're going to answer tonight. And Neil, I think let's start with the first thing. When you're looking for a 4K TV, because obviously next gen, you got to be 4K. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be buying a PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, 4K is standard. You got to be 4K. What is the difference between QLED, OLED, LED, NanoCell,
mini LED?
Mini LED, does any of this make a difference?
All right. Let me jump to the game screen, and then we can deep dive.
Get your libations, ladies and gents. Get your feet up. This is going to be a deep one, and I'm going to learn some stuff as well.
All right. So, what you need to know: 4K. You probably want a 4K. If you don't have a 4K TV, if you still have a 1080p TV, it'll work just fine. Like, don't worry. All these consoles will run on 1080p, but you're obviously losing out on a ton of graphical fidelity. Also, most of them have HDR support, so you'd want a TV or a monitor that has HDR capability. That
yes, of course.
that just gives you those brighter brights. So it's like if you're looking at a bright light source, it almost hurts your eyes. Sounds like a weird thing that you'd want on a TV, but it does. It just adds that contrast. Your brain and your eyes love good contrast. Human beings are much better at seeing contrast than they are at seeing color. So that's the first thing you want to do. So if you're going to go top of the range, the best TV you can probably buy right now would more than likely be a Sony or an LG OLED TV. They are hands down the best TVs you can buy.
Yeah. No, Neil's right.
The reason for it is because, and like it is a personal preference. They are double the price of any other TV, but they have the best black levels, they have the best contrast levels, and they have true black colors because an OLED works by completely switching off. It generates its own light. That's the whole technology behind it. The only people that make them though are Sony and LG. I think Sony's relaunched in South Africa, so you can actually buy Sony TVs again for a while.
They have. Yeah.
They're even more expensive than the LGs, but if you get an LG, I think it's a C9 55-inch OLED. It's a great TV. I think it supports 120 hertz, so you've got that side of it covered, and it's OLED. I think the B9, which is the earlier generation, only has 60 hertz support. And you got to also remember, like everyone's like, oh, I need a 144 hertz monitor or 120 hertz monitor for PlayStation 4. I guarantee you most PlayStation 4 and Xbox One Series X games are never going to run at 144 hertz. They're going to run 60 hertz max, 4K. That's probably what you want. And most of the time, they're actually going to run 30 hertz. This game in the background, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, it's designed to run 30 frames a second with all the ray tracing, which looks insane. It is the best ray tracing I've ever seen, and it's on like a console on your TV that you can buy next week, and it'll look and play just as good as it
is. Is that 4K? 4K
30 with ray tracing. Jeez, and then it's got the performance mode, which is 4K 60 without ray tracing. And it still looks really good, and it's super smooth, but the ray tracing just looks so insanely incredible. Like
take a glimmer at the screen right now. I think he's is this fidelity mode or performance mode?
This is all fidelity mode for this part of this scene. But like everything about this fidelity mode, like, and they've really done subtle ray tracing. It's not like when ray tracing first came out, it's just like reflections everywhere. With this, you have if he's looking through a window, you see a slight reflection of him through the window, and then you see everything behind it, and you see the reflection of the world around him, which you've never been able to do before. It looks insane. You'll see it. We're not going to go too much into how great the reflections look because you'll just be able to see it on screen. And this is a launch title of basically a previous generation game with some added features. So you can imagine what games are going to look like in 5 years. It's going to be insane.
Which is crazy. Because we've had ray tracing on PC for how long now? Like years.
2 years. This console, 2 years we've had ray tracing.
This Insomniac Games literally releases their launch title for PS5, destroys it in terms of the best ray tracing ever seen out the gate, sets the new bar. It's just phenomenal, dude. Like you said, I can't even fathom what we're going to see in 3 years, let alone 5 years. But you were saying earlier, OLED, without a doubt, the best TV you can buy, entry level, Neil, I think is 29. Or I'm talking about a 48 inch, it's like 30 grand. Yeah. That's a lot of money for a 48 or 55 inch TV screen. You know what I'm saying? So I want to talk about stuff, more of the newer stuff, the NanoCell, the QLEDs. I know without a doubt I would say go OLED, but I have heard the input lag's pretty bad on OLED.
Yeah, so if you get a newer generation OLED, like it's still probably better than anything else. TVs always have a worse input lag than a monitor.
Yeah.
TVs always have an 8 to 15 millisecond delay at like the high end, where monitors usually have a 1 millisecond delay to 5 millisecond delay. That's just how they work. TVs do a lot of image processing over and above what you see. QLED and nano LED and all of those things are all basically the same technology. They're all LEDs. They're all LEDs. There is advantages to LEDs. LEDs work better in brightly lit rooms. Like OLEDs work their best in a more dark lit room. They are overall much brighter. Like OLEDs can only go so bright before they start causing burn-in and all of those problems. That's why you'd want it in a darker room, so the brights are really bright. And the biggest advantage of a QLED is that it's much, much cheaper. Even like the top of the line Samsung
Brand new one.
QLEDs are 10 grand less than the equivalent sized OLEDs. And they have all the same technology. They've got all the same smart TV. They all
Game
have
mode.
HDR, game mode, all of those fancy features which you want. But Benjamin McDonald's asking some interesting questions about full 4K TVs and HDMI 2.1. And then this is when it starts getting very confusing. I was about to ask that next. Yeah. So HDR and HDMI and 4K and 120 high refresh rates is completely dependent on your entire technology stack. So the simplest way to do it would be have, say, a PlayStation 5, a decent HDMI cable going straight into the back of the TV. Then you've got HDMI 2.1 like the whole way through. If the TV's got HDMI 2.1 and the PlayStation got HDMI 2.1, everything will be happy. You can run 4K, 120 hertz, full HDR, everything like that. So
for those that don't know, what's the difference between HDMI 2 and HDMI 2.1?
So it's just the bandwidth difference. I think the only difference really between HDMI 2 and 2.1 is the maximum refresh rate. I think the maximum refresh rate, I might be wrong on this, for HDMI 2 is 60 hertz at 4K. And then for 2.1, it's up to 244 hertz, even maybe 300 hertz at 4K. And I think 2.1 supports 8K resolutions as well. Not that it's really anything to do here. So the problem is, though, if you've got an AV receiver, if you've got an audio receiver or a sound bar or something, and your PlayStation's going through the sound bar into your TV or whatever, or through your AV receiver into your TV, every link in the chain has to be the same. So that all has to be HDMI 2.1. Otherwise, it'll revert to whatever the lowest is out of that chain. So if your HDMI receiver only supports HDMI 1.4, then it'll default everything down to that. So, but as I said, like everyone's super excited about this 144 hertz mode. I doubt you're going to see many games. Maybe some 2D games, maybe some older PlayStation 4 games running in emulation mode. They'll hit those ultra high refresh rates. All the newer games, I doubt you're going to see higher than 60 FPS because it's a huge cost on resources.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Why can't we just have 4K 144 hertz? Like, is it just a killer for the GPU?
Well, you can imagine. So, like 30 FPS, to go from 30 FPS to 60 FPS, you basically need double the performance. So to double the performance, that's why, like with Spider-Man, they're like, okay, we can double the performance, but then we have to get rid of ray tracing because it's too expensive. So if you wanted to go from 60 FPS to 120 FPS at 4K, then you're going to have to start cutting other things. Like, what are you going to start cutting? You're going to have to start cutting texture resolution, filtering, draw distances, that kind of stuff. And then at that point, like, is it really worth it at that point? That's why a smaller 2D game or a game set in a small environment, maybe you can hit those 150 FPS or something like that.
Yeah, and you say what it says on the box, 8K will be possible via 2.1.
Yeah, so it should you should be able to run it at 8K, but it's much like like the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X could do 4K gaming at full 4K, but there were very few games that could do it properly because it just used too much performance. It like hit the performance too much. So rather use upscaling and techniques like that to make it look and run better. So if you have an 8K TV, I don't think the UI and everything runs in 8K, but it might do that eventually. They may do an upgrade and say you can run the OS in 8K, or you can run these smaller indie games in 8K. Like a 2D game, you can run it like any resolution. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But also remember, like an 8K image, like one screenshot of an 8K image is something like 250 megabytes in size. So,
that's a lot of information.
You start running out of bandwidth. Even with just a 2D image, it starts becoming excessive.
You were talking about input lag and latency earlier. why then screw the TVs? Let's just go for gaming PC monitors that do 4K. I've got a screen right now that does 2K at 144 hertz, great screen. Wouldn't that be the better one to just go 4K 144 on a PC monitor then?
You
get
you
the lowest
can,
latency?
except then you go into massive price discrepancies. So you can get. I was actually looking because, strangely enough, one of our one of our favorite viewers, Steve Scooms, actually sent me a private message yesterday saying, "Dude, looking for a monitor. What should I buy?" And I said, in South Africa at the moment, there actually is very little option. You're better off buying a TV. You can buy a 70,000 Rand Alienware OLED 40-inch PC monitor that runs, I think, at 120 hertz.
That weighs about 300 kilograms.
Yeah, look, that is the best thing you could buy. If I could afford that thing, I would buy it tomorrow because that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's an OLED, it's 120 hertz, it's a 4K monitor, it's got HDR, it's got everything you need, but it's 70,000 Rand. Where for 70,000 Rand, you can buy a 75-inch OLED TV, which has all the same. Okay. Yeah, it's got all the same features. 85-inch OLED. Yeah.
But why is a freaking 27-inch or 32-inch PC monitor 20,000 Rand? When all it does is 4K at 120, like most 2020 TVs.
I can't explain why it is, because TVs have a lot more processing in them. TVs usually have an image processor. A lot of them have a decoder of some description. These days, they've got like a digital decoder. They've got smart TV functionality, so it's basically got a little Linux Roku box or something inside it that gives you Android functionality, like Google TV. What's it called? Amazon Prime, YouTube, Netflix. All of that's built into your TV. Yet a 40-inch Dell professional desktop monitor costs 20,000 Rand. The main reason is color reproduction. So most of those monitors are built for graphic designers, artists, editors, production people. So the color reproduction has to be 100% accurate, where TV's color reproduction isn't. But us as the normal consumer, we don't know what that means. The
response time?
The response time, sorry, thank you. The response time also with the monitor is much more direct. Monitors also usually have far more dedicated input sources. So you can have like HDMI, you can have DVI, you can have DisplayPort, not FireWire, what's the Thunderbolt, all of those different display inputs. So, but also they sell 100,000 55-inch TVs. They sell maybe 5,000 40-inch 4K color accurate monitors every year. You know, so just from a pure supply and demand perspective, it doesn't equate. So, and at the moment in South Africa, there's basically no, other than that Alienware ridiculously expensive thing, there's no true 4K 120 hertz monitor available. You can get lots of 60 hertz ones.
There must be.
Not in South Africa.
Hey.
Yeah. And then Kyle Barnard's also raised the point about a 1440p monitor, because that's all the gaming monitors you see now. You get a 1440p with 144 hertz or 200 hertz or whatever it may be.
Is that is that like 1.5K? Well, yeah. So I've got a 2K. I've got a 2K.
Yeah, so it's slightly higher than that. So it's basically like a 3K monitor. So it's between 4K and 1080p.
Okay.
Really good, but the PlayStation doesn't support it natively. So the PlayStation will downscale a 4K image to that 1440p. So it won't look bad, but it won't look anywhere near as good as it will on a 4K, because it'll try and fit pixels into a size that it doesn't divide equally into, which is not great. I think the Xbox Series X actually does support 1440p natively, so the games will look great and run great on that. And that's probably the best, even for you, it may still be the best option. Just get yourself a 1440p monitor in the meantime, because you can get HDR and high refresh rate and all that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're not cheap, though. They're still 20,000 Rand.
No, screw that. I'm just going to wait for a 4K 120 hertz to come out next year.
But that's going to be 20,000 Rand. They're always going to be 20,000 Rand.
I'd rather spend 20,000 Rand on that than buy something that's not even 4K. You know what I'm saying?
I'd rather buy an OLED TV and just deal with.
But that's 30,000 rand. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, but it's
that's 10,000
three
rand
times
more.
the size of a monitor.
And my biggest problem is I have no space for anything bigger than 32 inches. So I have to get a PC monitor. I think everyone else has the luxury of like a full lounge where they can, or a gaming den that they can play in. Especially you. I mean, you've got a full TV room you can jam in. So you should go for an OLED.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go like monitor. I'm gonna have to just wait till that it goes 4K because I'm not gonna spend that money.
Yeah.
Until it's.
Otherwise, buy a 1440p now and then move that over to your secondary monitor when you're done.
Maybe. I want that HDR.
Yeah.
Would you say HDR is the reason to upgrade a monitor or just wait?
For you should dude, you don't even have any 4K in your entire house.
Nothing. Not even one HDR setting nowhere in my house.
That's terrible.
I know. And I'm supposed to be on the precipice of the future of gaming. Hey?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Jason, what's happening, buddy? Sorry if we're slow in the chat, guys. JC Finbeck says, and the consoles don't have the same teraflop of performance that the new generation of graphics cards on PC. I think they're only 24 teraflops of performance, but they have the secret sauce.
Yeah.
And
you can never compare a PC and a PlayStation or an Xbox directly. Yeah. Like, yes, PC always will have brute force be
more
far more powerful. Like it always has been ever since like discrete graphics cards came out. But you look at a game like The Last of Us 2 or God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn, like that stuff is insane on what is basically a 10-year-old computer. And it looks and plays beautifully, it runs beautifully. And as I said, like this Miles Morales is the best looking implementation of ray tracing I've seen.
And it's a launch game.
And it's a launch game. And it's even available on PlayStation 4, obviously without all the ray tracing and stuff. Just imagine what the next God of War is going to look like with Kratos' disappointment reflected perfectly in his eyes while you've disappointed him again. Like you're gonna feel actual tears and sadness that you've disappointed Kratos so much.
It's gonna look phenomenal, dude. I remember the launch games on the previous consoles, and dude, I was never blown away. I was like, this looks nice, but I can't wait to see what they come.
I don't know. I think Infamous.
Yes,
that Killzone looked amazing too. Killzone and Infamous, they still look amazing. Like that's why I'm like amazed with this new generation. Is that the previous gen, I think, really like knocked it out the park. Actually, like where you think where we started with that previous generation and ended with like Warzone with like massive open world Call of Duty on a console that's basically 10 years old is insane.
Yeah. No, we've come a long way. Raul, thank you for the 15 stars. Have some cozy, why not? As well as Stefan Rutz for the 25 stars. Hello, gents. How you doing, buddy? Some questions coming down the pipeline. I already saw some Xbox Series X consoles going up in smoke and not taking the CDs. My friend in New Zealand just got his PS5, lucky being one day in front of us. He's actually a week in front of us, but we'll get to that now. I saw those Xboxes smoking. Apparently, it could be fake. It could be some guy just blowing a vape pen into the bottom of his console, and the fan sucking it up.
The fan sucks it up and blows it out.
I saw some guy recreate it with the vape pen, so I don't know how true that is, but you never know. As for the PS5 in South Africa, it comes out next week, Friday. Only overseas does it come out. Is it tomorrow?
Somebody might be getting it tomorrow.
I'm actually getting a PS5 tomorrow. Obviously, like I'm not allowed to boot it up or anything until NDAs have lifted. But we got plenty of PlayStation 5 content coming down the pipeline, courtesy of PlayStation South Africa. But more on that later. Another 50 from Raul. I'm very happy with my 55 Q60R QLED Samsung. Neil, is that a good purchase?
Yeah, like it's like there's nothing wrong with a QLED. Like they are really good screens. The only thing is it's a bit like back in the 80s when Sony had the Vega Trinitron, which was just they had like the patent on a technology that was straight up better than any other technology. And OLED's a bit like that now. Only LG actually makes OLED screens. Even Sony buys their OLED screens from LG and then just puts their own software on. So they've got like the patent, not the patent, they're the only guys just to have the manufacturing capability to do it. And those screens are just so much better than any other screen that once you've seen it, you're like, well, it's cool. But if you don't, see it side by side, you won't know the difference.
Yeah.
And again, the price is, off-putting to say the least.
That's the thing. You can get a 75-inch QLED for like 15 grand.
Yeah.
75 inches.
Yeah.
Of like 2020 QLED.
Yeah.
Does Raoul, does yours have HDR? I'm sure it does if it's a QLED.
It should have. Most QLED, and then that's the other thing. So if you bought like one of the earlier HDR screens, it may not be real HDR. Like, I know that sounds silly, but some games and PlayStations don't play nicely with it. But anything bought in the last 2 years should be fine from an HDR perspective.
Okay, so Raoul's definitely got HDR. I have a 65 GL QLED 4K Smart with HDR, and it's awesome. Oh, that is nice, dude. That is nice. I think you meant LG, not GL, and this is a new knockoff brand on the market. JC, thank you for the 50 stars. Jy biscuit. Keegan Grich, hello family. How are you guys? All good, buddy. Chatting all things next gen consoles and which monitor/TV should you be looking at. We've already gone on a deep dive talking about the difference between OLED, QLED, mini LED, LED. Nano cell cheese deal.
There's mini LED is the brand new technology, which technically doesn't exist yet. It only exists in some laptop monitors, and it's like we saw them at where were we? CES, the beginning of this year, and basically that gives you all the advantages of OLED in a LED form factor. So it should be easier to create, have higher brightness, and have the really good blacks as well. And it's basically just tiny little LED screens that compress everything closer together, so you get better blacks. But
does it turn off the LEDs?
It does sort of. But like because they're so tiny that the light they're giving off is so minuscule that it almost looks like they're completely off. So that's the difference, but there's no TV that has them yet. They've only been able to make like a 13 or a 15-inch screen that works, but it's definitely coming. And once it's like in production ready, it should be a lot cheaper and more hardy than OLEDs. But OLED technology will continue getting better and improving. So
hopefully come down in price as well.
Yeah, I think as long as they've got the monopoly on like the best TV display, it's always going to be way more expensive.
I hear you. Grant Williams with a good question. So what's the difference between the OLED and the ULED? I recently picked up a Hisense and it's amazing. That's something we didn't talk about is the ULED, which is obviously Hisense version of the QLED.
Yeah, so it's still basically the same technology as a normal LED. It's a high quality LED, but it's still LED technology. It's not OLED technology. So you're not getting those super complete blackness. You're getting brighter brights, but it's always basically a gray image. It's never a true black image. So, but it's very comparable. I think Hisense actually buys their panels from Samsung, so it's exactly the same panel. The only difference is the software and the media center functionality behind it. The smart TV functionality is the only thing that's different.
And in a lot of ways for gaming, QLEDs and ULEDs are better because of the game modes. I know that OLEDs do struggle to hit the same refresh rates.
And OLEDs also, they got a bad rep because of the burn-in. So burn-in's mainly been addressed. But again, if you are playing a very static game and leaving that image on for a long time, OLEDs are still prone to burn-in, which LEDs aren't. But that's basically if you're abusing your TV more than anything else.
How can, plasma screens from like 2002 had burn-in. How can they not have rectified that problem by now?
It's just how the technology works. So like plasma, because it's using a material that the phosphors are bouncing off of, that burns away and heats up. And if it gets too hot, then it remains on the screen forever. So OLED works kind of the same way because the individual pixels are lighting up and shutting down. So they sort of get affected by how much brightness is run through them for extended periods of time, which ends up, burning in an image. And it's usually actually like the worst thing to do is like watch sports or or like have the news on. Like you get those little ticker tapes at the bottom of a news
Yeah,
channel.
yeah.
Those burn into TVs, and like a CNN logo or a Sky News logo or a Supersport logo are the things that burn in.
But QLED and ULED don't have that issue.
Theoretically, like I think if you left it on
Right.
forever, all of them would have it, but they're not as prone to it as an OLED is. But all of the TVs these days have built-in burn-in protection, so it'll start a screensaver. Like it can detect if the image hasn't changed, and then it'll do like a screensaver or something. It even slightly moves pixels around the screen to prevent it from happening.
Oh, that's quite clever. JC, thank you for that extra 50 stars, just in case we missed it. You said, I love LG, both are very good. Stefan Rutz saying, if it were 1080p, I'd go for Samsung Plasma, otherwise LG OLED. Why did Plasma even stop if it was such a great technology and had the highest refresh rate?
I think the main reason Plasma stopped is that it uses a ton of electricity compared to LEDs. Like it's
really?
They use like 200 watts, 250 watts of power compared to 20 watts for like a 75-inch TV. And you can even feel like my dad had a Plasma until like a couple of months ago, and you walk into that room and you can feel how hot it is in there.
But they're the best for movie viewing, aren't they?
They had a lot of advantages. They had the best refresh rate. Like back in 10, 15 years ago, they had a 240 hertz refresh rate, and
that's hard to believe, dude.
And they had like 1 millisecond response time. So for gaming, technically, they were top notch.
The best.
But very hot, and the Plasma, they have a shelf life. Like they only last about 10 years. They're heavy, they're wide, you can't make them as thin, and they generate a lot of electricity, or they use a lot of electricity and generate a lot of heat.
Would you say you have to upgrade to 4K if you're buying a PS5, or would you say you've got some time to wait if you've just spent 12 grand on a console?
Yeah.
What would your recommendation be?
Yeah, like I think you can wait. Like obviously you're not going to get the full effect. The games are still going to run. They're still going to look. They're still going to be exactly the same. So you don't have to worry. Like they're not going to prevent you from playing a game, but it will look significantly better when you upgrade your TV. And that's like the big ticket item, I guess, is that all games are 4K. Everything runs with like HDR. You won't get HDR obviously on an old TV that doesn't support it. But like look, you spend 12 grand on a console, maybe wait. And TVs always come down in price. Consoles don't.
Big time.
So
big time now.
The one thing though about being an early adopter of the console, and I think it might be a good time to talk about this, is the storage issues on both of these consoles.
Oh yes, of course. I found this out today. I couldn't believe what you were telling me, buddy.
Yeah. So both.
Yeah.
So both consoles come with a 1 terabyte super specific fancy like ultra fast hard drive built in. So it's basically like a super high end SSD that's directly linked into the system bus. The problem is, I think the PlayStation has 650 gigs around there, and I think the Xbox Series X has also, it's not got much more if it has more. So both of them have about 650 gigs of storage to play with. And that's it. You have to install all your games on that main hard drive. You can't plug in an external hard drive and install games on there.
No problem. Upgrade, just upgrade the SSD.
No, but you can't do that because it's a very specific design specifically for the console's SSD. I think the Series X actually has a specific port that you can plug in a specific Xbox-enabled SSD, but then,
But dude, Call of Duty Warzone is currently sitting at like 260 gigs. Just one game.
Yeah. So you can maybe install 3 games on your PlayStation. And like obviously they're going to get much, much, much bigger because textures are going to be higher, the load times are going to be better.
I was about to say, it's all 4K textures.
Yeah. So that to me is like, it's one of those big things where like with the current PlayStation, even if you have the original launched one, plug in an external hard drive, you can plug in like a 5 terabyte external hard drive. You can plug in an SSD or you can replace it with an SSD and you get even better performance. Not massively better, but better performance. But now you can't. I think eventually they'll probably release PlayStation compatible external drives. But like to me, if you're on the fence about buying a PlayStation or Xbox, have maybe wait for the next cycle if they sold out. Wait for like the 2 terabyte version or the 5 terabyte version to come out.
That could be 6 months to a year down the line.
Yeah.
You're saying wait.
Well, if you want, because I can see like a big problem is going to be like swapping out to install new stuff. Because I think PlayStation 4 launched with 512 gigs. Or 500 gig hard drive.
But hold on. We're so used to this digital age. What if you just buy the game disc?
No, that obviously won't work. You have to install it onto the hard drive. No one plays games off discs anymore.
But doesn't it still read a lot of the data from the disc?
No,
so like you can.
No.
What are you talking about, man?
No PlayStation 4 Xbox game reads anything off a disc.
You're telling me the disc is just there to like boot it up?
Yep, pretty much. Copy over some files. And these days, the internet's faster than the transfer rates of a disc. So it's faster to just download the game than to install it off a disc.
But didn't that, like CD used to work like that, or DVD, it used to read the information from the disc in real time, didn't it?
But that's because games were much smaller and, you were loading. Don't you remember like load times on an Xbox 360 were insane?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was, I'm trying to think of some of the games that were like atrocious. Oh, Grand Theft Auto, everyone knows Grand Theft Auto 5. But to its credit, like that was about a minute and a half to get into the game. But to its credit, once you're in, like you could explore the entire world.
Yeah, but I think that required a download portion as well, even on PlayStation 3. Whereas like Xbox 360, if you were playing like Halo 4, you'd have like a 5-minute load time.
Stefan Ruth saying my 43-inch plasma is 10 years old and still going strong, keeps the lounge warm in winter. That's a nice little double usage you're getting out of that plasma, buddy. Raul says, I think you have 2 years before you have to upgrade to 4K. I think a year, but I don't think you have to do it straight away. PJ saying, why not just get a 4K projector if the size really matters to someone? Now, that's a good question that we haven't covered, Neil. 4K projectors, buddy. Why shouldn't every guy just go and buy one of those?
Have you seen how expensive a 4K projector is?
How much is it?
It's like 30 grand for a decent one.
What? Another problem with the projector is you need perfect lighting conditions. So you can't.
And a giant wall to project it onto.
Yeah. So is that just not an option?
No, like it's totally like if you can afford it and you've got the space, like projectors are epic. Like
if you have a cinema room, like a completely dark room.
And projectors also have burn-in issues, same as OLED screens, where like bulbs will burn out and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
do you have that, PJ? Do you have a completely dark room that you would set that up in? Because
I had a friend back in the day. His dad, a complete side topic here. His dad had a full-on theater room in their house.
What?
And
who is this?
A friend of mine from primary school. And
did I know him?
Maybe you did. I don't know. I'm not going to say names on a podcast. It's going to be weird. But went to his house, and you go into this room, and he had like blackout curtains on the side. He had like probably now it's probably like a 75 or 80-inch projector screen. Like, this was like 15, 20 years ago. And then the best part, though, is you turn it on, and then the speakers drop down out the roof and like lower down. Dude, it was the coolest setup ever.
Did he have the cinema chairs?
No, he just had a big couch and like some bean bags. It was super awesome.
Did you ever watch a movie there?
Yeah, we used to watch, like, we used to be big into wrestling back in the day. And he had DSTV. And then we used to go watch like what's the big WWE WrestleMania? WrestleMania used to be on at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Used to go stay over on the weekend at his house and watch WrestleMania live, and it was awesome. Back when it wasn't pay per view.
Yeah. Jeez, that pay per view is like $100 a viewing. What's up, Danger? Don't be a stranger. Salutations and libations. PJ Klainsmith. There's so many PJs in the chat. Jay Brown, my boy Brown Sauce. What's happening, buddy? And the globes don't last long on projectors, JC. That's another problem, is that the globes have a lifespan of, I think,
and they're very
10,000
pricey.
The globes alone are like five grand, so there's no point replacing it. So now, like, for those just joining us, Neil, what is your best advice for some guy that just spent 10, 12 grand on a next-gen console, is hearing all the guys go on about HDR, HDMI 2.1, 4K, refresh rates, But he just spent 10, 12 grand. So his pesos are thin, but he does want to maybe get a new set because he's still rocking his old 3D TV from 2012. What should he buy? I don't say OLED because
No,
it's 30 grand.
No, OLED is obviously a high end, you know. If you want the best of the best, go that route. Honestly,
what would you recommend?
I would say go for a Hisense. Get one of their 55-inch, one of their latest gen. I don't exactly know what it is. Like you're getting
The ULED.
Yeah, you get the Hisense ULED that's got HDR. It's got all the smart TV functionality. It's got full 4K. It's basically the exact same panel as the Samsung, and you're getting it. You can pick up, I think, one of those for like 12 grand for like a really.
Not even.
Yeah.
You can get a 55 at Black Friday for like 7,999.
Depends if it's the ULED, because you get a lot of them that don't have HDR. So make sure you get the one with the HDR. Like, don't waste your money and get one without HDR. That's just a waste.
Let's go through the checklist when buying a TV. Like, what should you be looking at? Something that has HDR. That's one.
So HDR, 4K, true 4K, not like fake 4K.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because a lot of guys are selling Ultra HD TVs, so that could be bullshit.
Yeah.
So how do you afford that trap?
Just check what the maximum resolution is. So it should be like 3960 by 2. I can't actually remember what the numbers are. It's got to be 3000 something.
3,000 something
by 2540, something like that. Then make sure it's got HDR, like true HDR support. If you're not sure, make sure it says 10-bit HDR.
What are the versions?
You get 8-bit HDR, but that's fake. That's not real HDR. Then
the 10-bit HDR.
Yeah. Chances are you're not going to get 120 hertz or higher screen, so it'll more than likely be a 60 hertz screen. That's just, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. You may get lucky. I do know that some Hisense and some HDRs, there's some fires going on in the background of my house at the moment.
Is that your smoke warning?
Yeah, there's a smoke alarm going on.
He's burning the dumplings, Neil.
Sorry about that, guys. We're just going to wait for it to go away.
JC's saying it's 3,860 by 2,160. So that's the resolution you want to see on the box. Don't be fooled by Ultra HD, guys, because the salesman will say, yeah, it's 4K, just to get the sale. Make sure you see that resolution on the box, as well as 10-bit HDR, not 8-bit, because apparently that's fake. I wouldn't worry about HDMI 2.1. I don't think you're going to find an HDMI 2.1 TV for under 16 grand.
I think check, though. If you can find it, definitely get that. Most of the lower-end TVs will only have one HDMI 2.1 port. I think any TV released in the last 6 months should have it. If it's got HDR and it's got 4K, it should come with the HDMI 2.1. Remember, though, that your audio center, your AV receiver,
that'll be a bottleneck.
Yeah, that'll need to be compliant, HDCP 2.2 compliant, HDMI 2.1 compliant. Otherwise, you're going to have to bypass that and then use like optical audio or something for your audio. So keep that in mind. If you're running it straight to the TV, you don't have to worry about that. Or if you're using headphones, you don't have to worry about any of those things. Then the other thing you need to check on is, I can't remember. I had it, but then there was a fire alarm, and I got confused.
Well, think about it while we answer Grant Williams'. So it's not a question, but he says it's the Hisense H7 series, has HDR, true 4K, has game ready mode with it's 55 inches to 65 inches with HDMI 2.1. Grant, do you mind telling us how much it costs for the 55 at least entry level? Because that's amazing.
That sounds like a great TV.
That's amazing specs for a TV that hopefully costs about 10, 12 grand. JC saying anything that says 2160p is 4K. I don't think so. I think it's 2K, Adil.
No, 2160p should be 4K, but just make sure it's true 2160.
That's very that's because 1080p is
2K.
No, I'm talking about 1920 by 1080p is 1/4 the resolution of 4K.
Yeah.
So then why would 2160p be 4 times the resolution if it's only double the number?
You're not, because it's double the number in one direction. So if you double the number in 2 directions, then it's 4 times the size. Come on, Dave, mathematics.
I can't do the math, my brain. So it's okay. So can you look for 2160p?
Yeah, just look on the specs that it says maximum resolution, and it'll give you the resolution. Most TVs, I haven't seen TVs like faking the resolution. Like you used to get HD ready TVs that were 720p. Grant Williams says that TV cost 12 grand, which is damn good price.
That is a deal. Is that a Black Friday special, Grant, or is that?
I might buy that TV.
Please tell us where you saw that, dude. If you don't mind, you can drop a link if you want, or just tell us where you saw it. Much appreciated. Welcome to, we missed someone jumping in, Michael Jensen for Fearon. Here's the number one streamer in the world, or number one streamer in the world. Welcome, good to have you here, buddy. It's been a long time. Where have you been hiding? Dave does maths, not maths. I do maths. This is 3. 2 times 2K is 52K. Yes, PJ Clay Smith. This is the kind of math I do in my brain. So guys, well, basically, to like conclude this conversation, the TV you want to buy is going to cost you about 12 grand, and I think we're going to get a link for it from Grant Williams, because that's got HD. It's got HDR, HDMI 2.1. It's 4K. What else did it have, Neil? Let's actually scroll back.
HDMI 2.1, HDR, 4K.
HDR. Yeah.
So that's all. It's ticking all the boxes there, and I think it comes with like a 2 or a 3 year warranty, which is also really important.
No, I bought it just before Black Friday. Bought it at Hi-Fi Corp. Guys, go find that H7 Hisense TV. That's probably going to be about 8 grand now. Holy crap! If you can find that TV,
Dave, you should buy that TV,
bro.
I know you have no space, but come on.
I can't put it in. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put upstairs. But then I have to get rid of my 3D TV, which is the ultimate in cinema experience. 3D from 12 years ago.
4-year warranty on that bad boy as well.
If I can get that Hisense H7 for like 9 grand, I might have to do it, because that's amazing. If it's got HDR, what's it like, Grant? Are you impressed? Is the HDR decent? I know Macro have some really good specials. There's good specials all over the place. I have been studying TVs, and I'm so tempted to buy a 4K TV. But like I said, my problem is space limitations, and I need to get a 4K computer monitor to actually be able, to stream my PlayStation 5 to you guys, but also when I'm not streaming, I can just play it without interfering with Megan's Netflix watching. So I'm in a bit of a pickle. But for everyone else watching this, get that H7 Hisense, because you're going to find it for like under 10 grand. And crap in a punch bowl. That's a good deal, Neil. Hey?
That is a good deal.
Crap in a punch bowl.
I think just to wind back all the way to the very first question, I can't remember who asked it, but it was about like, do you buy next gen console or do you upgrade PC and do streaming?
Oh, wow.
So it depends. So I'm assuming he's already got a PC that can do some level of streaming, but he's not happy with the performance. So with the new Ryzen 5600 or 5000 series processors coming out, the cheapest one you can buy is the 5600, which is about 6.5 grand. If you've got and let's just say you need to buy the processor, motherboard, and RAM for it to upgrade, that alone is going to cost you more than the PlayStation 4. And then, but you can obviously stream natively from that. You can play games. You can probably run Warzone, no issue with that. Hopefully, you've got a decent enough graphics card. If you don't have a decent enough graphics card, add another 10,000 rand on top of that. So you're already looking at 25,000 rand. Whereas PlayStation, spend 12 grand on a PlayStation or an Xbox Series X. Spend 3 grand on a capture card. And then use your current PC that you already have and stream away. So probably overall, if you have a decent TV, like I think, even if you don't have a decent TV, it doesn't really matter. So again, probably your PlayStation or your console option is a lot cheaper. But in future, you're going to have to eventually update that PC. But, if you can get ahead with the console, maybe you grow your streaming channel, get a couple of donies, get a couple of subs, that can pay for your upgrade of your PC. Then you buy a whole brand new PC, keep this old PC as your dedicated streaming rig. You're good to go.
Yeah. I would say, listen, like if you want to become a streamer, that's a good place to start. Even Dr. Disrespect started on a Xbox 360. He was streaming his Xbox 360 and his PlayStation 3 for years before he made the jump to PC. So
he wasn't
if you
even
wanted to be,
streaming. He was just doing let's plays and making funny
yeah,
videos.
I think eventually he started on console. Dip your toes in. It's definitely the cheapest way to get a good-looking, crispy stream without having to buy like a bloody 12,000 Rand CPU. You know what I'm saying? Out there, some real cash. And if you find yourself 6 months to a year down the line building a nice community and audience, you're like, shit, I'm enjoying this. I'm going to spend the money. I would say ultimately, if you want to take it seriously, you'd have to be on PC.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go, you could do a lot more. Like, we're not going to get into that now, but like, there's a lot more you can do from a show perspective.
But
overlays and things.
If you want to buy a PlayStation or Xbox, like, you're going to get that anyway. Like, it's a much cheaper option. So if you're wanting to buy a PlayStation because you want to play the next God of War, you want to play Spider-Man, you want to play Gran Turismo, then that's your obvious option. But overall, a pure PC setup's probably going to last you a longer time and that's always the problem also. Like, you can have a single PC setup these days that can do all of it, where with the PlayStation, you've got the PlayStation, you've got the PC, you're running on multiple things. It's much more complicated, but you can do a lot more with a dual PC setup.
Yeah. Matthew Sterling, what's happening, buddy? Good to have you here. Hope Thailand's treating you well, buddy. You haven't made that big mistake that we always talk about just yet, but you will. I thank you, Grant, for the link. I'm looking at that TV you bought right now. It looks amazing. It does have HDMI 2.0. It doesn't have 2.1 and 60 hertz, which is still fantastic for the price. Go check it out. He dropped it in the chat. Another question: stream it 4K or 1080p? PJ, that's an easy one here, Neil.
Yeah, 1080p. Like, we don't have the bandwidth or the power. Yeah. Like, a PC to stream in 4K, it'll be insane. Maybe in a year or two, probably 4K. You can already buy 4K capture cards, but everyone will need like 100 meg fiber just to watch your stream. You'd probably need 100 meg fiber.
Most people, the average of people that watch consumer content on mobile, whatever it may be, are watching at 720p half the time. I'd say not even half 75% of people that consume your streaming content are watching in 720p. Dude, there must be maybe 0.5% that would consume in 4K.
Yeah. 4K video uploads, if you're streaming it out at 1080p, you can then record it at 4K and upload it separately, but you're just creating issues and you're still using as much processing power. Because again, it's 4 times the resolution, so it requires 4 times the processing power to do the transcoding and the encoding and all of that stuff. So for now, for streaming, streaming doesn't look anywhere near as good as it looks on your TV or on your PC or whatever. So 1080p, it's a lot more muddy. You could bump up the bit rate and make 1080p look beautifully clear rather than stream a 4K image. A good example is get a really high quality 4K, not 4K, like a high quality 1080p Blu-ray, something like Tron Legacy or Prometheus, and you watch that now, and you watch that compared to a 4K Netflix stream, the 1080p Blu-ray will look 10 times better, just because it's got much higher bitrate, better color quality, less aliasing. So you don't bother with 4K yet. When everyone else starts doing 4K, then do 4K.
PJ's got a question for you, Neil. Quite a long question there, but there it is. I can read it out for you. Can you see it on your screen?
He got a PC, he can play. I'm thinking of it. Was my plan to buy the new console and capture card and PC solidly for streaming only, but now I'm in between. It depends on what, PJ, actually buy the thing where you're going to play the most. If you're going to play 90% on PlayStation, stream from your PlayStation. If you're going to play 90% on PC, stream from PC. Don't worry about which one to use. Go for the one that you enjoy, because at the end of the day, that's what it is.
What are the specs on that PC? Because I think he's also worried that he's pushing his streaming PC too far. What are the specs? And we'll tell you if you'll be able to do a console stream through that PC with ease. Drop him in the chat. That's what we hear. Michael Jensen from Fury, and since we're on the stream topic, what is the best way to gain followers and get noticed? Because I really want to take this seriously. Be a beautiful girl, dude. Be a beautiful.
Are you a woman?
Girl.
No. Well.
Otherwise, maybe become a welder. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. 4K videos uploaded. Okay, we did answer that one. Got an Elgato capture card. PJ Klainsmith, one of the best. We only use Elgato, the best capture cards by far. We've used a few of them. Elgato is by far ahead of the game. So good purchase there. Will Twitch not open encoders for everyone? Neil?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. So to get a game onto Twitch, you have to send it from your PC. So your PC has to do some level of work to send a data stream to Twitch. Twitch then does whatever it needs to do to then show that to everyone else. So they transcode it, is what it's called. But your PC still has to encode the video capture and the audio capture into data that can be uploaded into Twitch. That takes a lot of processing power and effort. And depending on what PC you have, that and what game you're playing. So if you're playing something like Warzone's already taken up a ton of your PC's resources. But if you're playing something like Among Us, it's taken up very little. So Among Us is a much easier game to stream off one PC than something like Warzone. But when you go to something like a secondary PC, it doesn't matter what game you play, because it's just taking audio and video signal, and just you've got an entire PC that's encoding it and doing all the work. So it's just how powerful that PC is in total to encode it, rather than having your game PC trying to do both at the same time.
PJ is saying, I understand, but can Twitch not allow people to change transcoded?
No, so Twitch is the worst at it. It creates the best result because it takes whatever you send to it and just distributes it to everyone in its complete raw original form. And that's why, like, if you're sending a super high quality 4K stream to Twitch, it'll look beautiful, sound beautiful, everything. But your PC is doing all of that work to make it look and sound beautiful. Twitch is just distributing it to everyone. Your PC is still doing like all of the work to actually make it look and sound beautiful. So if your PC is not up to the task, it's not going to be able to do it properly.
Okay. Michael Jansen from Furion saying, should I just use my girlfriend as stream bait? Yes, you should. Now we've got the cogs are turning. Dave, we should do a co-stream 1v1 Rainbow Six Tourney. Haven't played that game in a while. Would make great content. Tell your girlfriend join us. We can make a plan. JC says in Valhalla that rock your stream big time. Push the poor card to death. Obviously, yeah. Depending on what you play, it's more resource intensive. It's gonna take more strain on the system. So you might not be able to play the latest and greatest games. Are we still talking about what are we talking about? Are we talking about streaming from the same system as gaming?
Yeah. So I think that's the thing. So like, remember, Dave has a dedicated streaming PC. So
yes.
he can play Cyberpunk at maximum graphics that his PC's falling over, but it won't affect the stream quality because the stream's on a completely separate PC.
But that's if you want to get into it serious time now. Like either you spend 12 grand on a CPU, you get a second PC for 12 grand.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The modern day CPUs are so powerful that you can multi-stream, or you can stream and play high-end games. The only problem is games are always going to catch up and start using up all of your CPU power. So it's like you're always going to run out of power eventually. But for the moment, graphics cards are super powerful, processors are super powerful. So if you've got new high-end stuff, you can stream pretty easily from one PC.
Yeah. I'm watching this footage of Knack. This is a launch game on PS4.
Yeah.
Is that what we're seeing? Because, dude, the physics and particle effects in that game for a launch title were phenomenal, dude.
That game sucked.
It's dude, like, I'm just saying the physics and particle. Where's Knack 2? Isn't Knack 2 supposed to be a PS5?
What's interesting about this, though, is it's showing the PS5's backwards compatibility mode, and it's running at 60 FPS compared to 30 FPS on the PS4 Pro. So the PS5 and the Xbox One Series X are beasts of machines. They've got brand new top-of-the-line GPUs, where even the PS4 and the Xbox One, they came out kind of with an older generation GPU, where this time they're coming out with a GPU that AMD hasn't even released on PC yet. It's only coming out the end of this month. And they're using basically the same processor cores as the brand new Ryzen 5000s. So they are like super high-end PCs and you're getting it actually for a really good price. I know 12 grand sounds like a lot of money, but the power in that thing for right now is probably well worth it.
It's I mean, 12 grand for basically a 2070 costs 12 grand, and that's just a GPU.
Yeah, and a 2070 is not as good as a card in a PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gaming on a laptop with my stream buffers now and then, but with COD, it absolutely crashes. I can't stream COD even on 480p. Well, dude, I can tell you now, you bottlenecking hard there, dude. What do you think, Neil?
Like you can't. A laptop and a Call of Duty stream will not work. Even if you have super high-end gamer laptops, they're not designed for playing games and streaming at the same time. They're designed for playing games, sure, but if you try and then stream on top of that, it's going to run into issues. Like
PJ dropping his specs because he obviously he's thinking about buying a console to stream through his current PC that is rocking an AMD Ryzen 7 2700X.
That'll be fine. That's
1650.
That's almost identical to what Dave's streaming PC specs are.
Dude, that is more than enough for a streaming rig. Like I said, like Neil said, my specs are almost identical, and my stream is buttery smooth.
Yeah.
Michael Johnson from Fear and saying, Dave, that game looks awesome. The particle effects. Mr. Marks, no, it sucks. The only reason this podcast works is because I'm the yin to Neil's yang. You know what I'm saying? We are so opposite in terms of everything. I'll ask my girlfriend if she can join, but then I won't get my PC back for a week because she wants to use it. It's worth it. Ask her to join. We'll make a plan. But Neil, I think we've answered almost all the questions. There have been a lot of questions.
There have been.
And guys, thank you so much. I mean, it's a hot topic. If you guys want to do another deep dive next week into something, I think next week we're going to be talking about probably more current gen stuff because it's such a hot topic.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out in time because I don't know what we're going to talk about now. But unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end, Neil, and that is the end of this week's life-changing, amazing podcast. I think this is the longest podcast we've done today.
It is.
Hey.
Over an hour. We smashed it and it flew by once again.
It did. I think we've never gone over an hour. We're always like 55 minutes, 58 minutes. We're about to break, I think, an hour and 5 minutes. So thank you, guys. We wouldn't be sitting here if you guys weren't asking us questions, engaging with us. We're here for you guys. Neil's here. I just drink wine and make the 2 cents comments. But luckily, we've got Neil with a plethora of tech knowledge. So PJ with the 200 stars. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Thank you for watching and hanging out with us, dude. Good luck with that stream. Like I said, best advice is to use your current PC as a current streaming rig and get a next-gen console, buddy. The viewership on the next-gen titles is going to be huge. No better time to spend 10, 12 grand on a next-gen system and start your streaming career big time. So, and another 45 stars, JC. This guy's on fire.
Thanks,
6-week streak. Much appreciated, guys. So once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the shares, likes, and comments. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday Eve. We will be back. I'll be back on Friday, probably at 10 a.m. rocking. Believe it or not, Neil, guess what I'm playing on Friday?
I think you're going to be playing some Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Is that what you're thinking?
I think so.
I was thinking the same thing, but apparently this little game came out of left field.
Oh, what's it called? Pledoinum. What's it called? Probius. Yeah, that game looks cool, man.
I like where your head's at because that's a great game and I will play it. No, it's other little game, dude. It's this little
game. Call of something.
Call of Duty. Call of Duty comes out on Friday. No one knows that it comes out on Friday. No one's even talking about it. Holy crap! In a punch bowl. I'll be playing Call of Duty on Friday because yes, the game comes out on Friday.
That's insane. That game's coming out on Friday.
It was Neil's third choice because he didn't even know it was coming out on Friday.
Yeah,
so anyway, Call of Duty on Friday. Thank you guys. Much love to you. Cheers, Grant. Cheers, JC, PJ. Enjoy your dinners and your chill time and your libations. We will catch you on the next one. Stay sexy, ladies and gents. Super boys.
Cheers, guys.